giving thrust to human rights. India is wedded to the socialist philosophy of equality to all, securing social and economic and political justice to everyone, ensuring the human dignity and fraternity. The golden line of human rights jurisprudence runs through the important chapter of the Constitution. Part 3 of the Constitution, which provides for fundamental rights, can be described as a nucleus of human rights as it seeks to secure civil and political rights to the people of our country as enshrined in the United Nations Covenant on Civil and Political Rights of 1976. It provides for the equality of status and opportunity, prohibition of discrimination, fundamental freedoms, abolition of untouchability, and rights of the minorities. Part 4, dealing with the directive principles of the state policy, provides for the right to employment, education, food, and nutrition, prohibition of employment of children in certain types of occupations, equal pay for equal work, etc. All these rights are social, economical, and cultural rights as enshrined in the UN Covenant on Social, Economic, and Cultural Rights. The soul-searching question that remains to be answered is whether we have realized the constitutional goal of securing basic human rights to everyone in our country. Consequent upon the initiation of globalization process at the international level, India has adopted new economic policy in 1990s, resulting in the massive growth of our industry, especially IT industry in general and software in particular, a rise in the gold reserves, spread of manpower across the globe, etc. It has also led to indiscriminate exploitation of rich bioresources by multinational companies, monopolization of our traditional knowledge, indiscriminate growth of metropolitan cities, and rapid urbanization, creating a big gulf between the haves and have-nots. This has added to the misery of the poorest of the poor in terms of ever-increasing hunger, malnutrition, lack of safe drinking water, migration of the rural population to the cities and forcing them to live in most heinous conditions in cities, and the difficulties encountered by the rural farmers in maintaining their agriculture due to the exorbitant cost involved. All these aspects require a fresh look at our policies and also our attitude towards these problems. In the Western countries, the concept of basic human needs was developed much earlier than in our country. The level of economic and social development reached in some of the developed countries like America, Germany, Japan, Switzerland, and England has brought about a shift in their thinking as to the human rights. These countries are involved in ensuring more advanced needs like social security, insurance, freedom of expression, foreign exchange, power, expansion, traveling, and opportunity as basic human needs. Look at our country. Our basic human needs, we give thrust to food, shelter, drinking water, health, education. But whereas in these developed countries, their human rights, they proclaim as insurance, freedom of expression, foreign exchange, power, expansion, traveling, opportunity. Globalization is a carefully evolved system to pursue this advanced level of human rights. We will not find proper place for traditional and the most basic of the human rights in this globalization process. Hence, the thrust of human rights in our country, as in many other developing and underdeveloped countries, is entirely different from the one in advanced Western world. We have not yet achieved the basic requirements of food, shelter, clothing, drinking water, etc., which are the minimum civic facilities to a common man. Our needs are needs of sheer survival. Therefore, our policy and strategy of human rights is required to be different from the developed world. It is not enough if we provide rights to the well-placed and educated people of the country. Friends, here I would like to draw your kind attention of all of you to the most burning problems of violation of human rights which has drawn scantiest attention of all the major players, including the media. The issue that I am placing before you is farmers' suicides, which is cutting at the roots of our society slowly, silently, and without proclamation, just as Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon. We all know that India is predominantly agrarian society and 70% of our people depend upon agriculture. Farmer is often described as Annadatta, Messiah in our society. He and his tools are used as political planks as well in our democracy and politics. The farmers in our country is known for his hard, dedicated and sincere work. It is because of his hard work and the work, the thirst for food of the toiling millions is quenched. Alas, our society is the one which is putting all kinds of difficulties by its players in making farmer reap the benefit of the work he has put in. Starting from the day one of buying seeds to the last day of selling his crop proceeds, he is put to countless difficulties and inhuman exploitation. Giant seed corporates, particularly in this era of globalization, who are so much encouraged, who have monopolized the seeds, would take the tears out of the eyes of the farmers by the sky-rise price for the so-called good quality seeds. The subsidy provided by the government is gradually taken away in the midst of mounting pressure. The farmer is fettered into the debt trap by private moneylenders and government and bank agencies. The loan recovery system is so inhuman, making him to lose not only his honor and confidence and whatnot. Middlemen's profiteering techniques by hoarding the farm products prevent the farmer from getting the reasonable price for his products. All these developments have pushed the farmer to the corner, compelling and forcing him to commit suicide. It is alarming to note that there is a farmer suicide every third day in our state. It is a sheer paradox that more than 1,12,000 farmer suicides have taken place in the country between 1997 and 2003. There is a very cold response to these suicides by all responsible players in our democratic setup. The media, which gives wide coverage for terrorist killings, attack by a terrorist on civilians, airplane accidents on their prime space, spare a poor three-line coverage in a commercially worthless page for farmer suicides, without even making a mark that these are pitiable results of human right violations. It will not be out of context if I mention here a recent incident of ICICI Bank harassing a farmer leading to his suicide in Mysore. But let me thank the media in this issue who have raised to the occasion and made ICICI Bank to come to understand the reality and come to the aid of the farmer. This incident has taken place at the time when Honorable Supreme Court of India had come down heavily against the same bank for employing unscrupulous elements for recovery of loans. If we introspect what has happened in the last 6 decades, 60 years of our independence, the hard realities stare at us. We have not been able to completely eradicate the practice of untouchability, which is the most dreaded practice nullifying the very basic aspect of human life. In spite of the constitutional mandate supported by special legislation, separate legislation, the inhuman exploitation of various categories of working class by the employers is going on unabated. Child labor is rampant in our country. Researchers give a range of incidents of child labor in India from about 14 million to about 100 million. That is 1.5 crore to 10 crore. Some studies show every fourth child in the age group of 5 to 15 is employed. It is estimated that over 20% of the country's GNP is contributed by child labor. The figures released by the non-governmental agencies are much higher than those of the state. UNICEF cites figures from various resources that put child labor in India at between 75 to 90 million, that is 7.5 crore to 9 crore. In brief, India is the largest producer of child labor and illiteracy on this earth. According to at least one study, a quarter of the world's total number, 1/4 of the world's total number of child laborers are in India. So many children are sold every year by parents due to economic necessity, poverty, ignorance, whatsoever we call it. Children are sold by traffickers as per the survey conducted and as mentioned in Dr. Gilada's paper on perspective and positional problems of social intervention shows that among prostitutes, 70% of women are forced into prostitution and 20% of these are the child prostitutes. A survey conducted by Indian Health Organization of a red light area of Mumbai shows 20% of 1 lakh prostitutes are children. 25% of child prostitutes had been abducted and sold. 6% had been raped and sold. 8% had been sold by their fathers after forcing them into incestuous relationship. 15% of the women in prostitution have been sold by their husbands. What a shame. Women are put to all kinds of exploitations in terms of domestic violence, sexual harassment at workplaces, dowry harassments, distribution of property, etc. In spite of all these things happening in the country, in our country, can we say that we respect human rights? It is time that we take a relook, serious look at all these issues which are the basic aspects of human rights that need to be protected at any cost. Let us focus our attention on the issue of child labor, which disturbs a plethora of human rights of life, liberty, education, and development. It is a debatable issue and a very complex issue that child labor in agriculture sector cannot be just eliminated as it would hit the economic sustenance of poor agrarian family. But what is most unfortunate is the employment of children as domestic servants by the very people responsible for protection of human rights and implementation of human rights. For example, whether it is IAS officer, KS officer, whether it is officer of secretary level, deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, government officials, whatsoever rank they belong, even the judges of the courts, police, teachers, politicians too. How many blessed children of such affluent people are cared or cursed on the lap of the ill-fated children? Another important issue is the neglect of parents. There is a considerable amount of reluctance, especially among the government servants, to take care of their parents, and this has been made explicit at times by these employees whenever attempts are made to bring this matter into the legal framework. Hope Mr. Dakshinamurthy will remember the incidents when the government was trying to bring this caring parents as a liability of a government employee. There was much hesitation, much opposition. They were prepared to take the liability of caring their children and their wife. But when it was referred as parents, there was so much of opposition, hesitation. However, now that the Parents' Care Bill introduced recently in Parliament is a step in right direction and deserves all appreciation as it seeks to make it mandatory for every one of us to take care of the parents, and any negligence in this regard is punishable. Another very important aspect of globalization that is hitting at the rights of the common man is the environmental hazards that the globalization has brought along with it. Indiscriminate exploitation of bioresources by value addition and patenting in bringing our biodiversity to the brink of extinction, leading to ecological balance. It is also preventing the poor man from having free access to the biological resources as he used to have earlier. Globalization has brought along with it a new exodus into the urban and metropolitan cities, resulting in exponential growth of cities, forcing people living there to lead a pathetic life robbed of basic facilities. Poor rural people who come in search of employment to urban places lead a dreaded life without a roof to live in, no education to their children, and without basic civic facilities and living conditions. In view of all this, we have to evolve a strategy wherein we prioritize our human rights agenda. First priority has to be invariably to secure the basic human rights like right to life, health and Medicare, food, safe drinking water, shelter and other civic facilities to the common man. This has to be supported with education, employment, minimum wages, and facilities to poor and self-help groups. In this era of globalization, keeping in view of our country's socio-economic and cultural situation, we should only, after securing the most basic human rights of the common man, we can think of advanced level human rights that are being worked out in Western countries. It is through this kind of new strategy that we will be able to establish a society ushering in human dignity for everyone. I believe that this important national conference will deliberate upon these types of most burning issues and are confronting the common man on the street. It is by embracing him and bringing warmth in his heart and soul, we will be really developing a worthwhile human rights program in our country. Before I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you all, friends, let me make an appeal to Sri Virendra Hegde ji. I have seen him working for the rural development. I have seen him working for the society to give thrust to the values in the life. I have seen him working, delivering justice to the people who have knocked the doors of Manjunath Ishwara. This is the time when in Karnataka in particular, there are none or very few who have taken keen interest about the human rights issues. Human rights is one, if we are happy with the protection of human rights, we can say that there is a good governance. If human rights violation is more, none of us can say that whatsoever party it is, there is a good governance. And it is the human rights protection which will keep the society peaceful. And to make or keep the society peaceful, I would like Dharmadhikari